Welcome, this is Troy Barrett with How to Barbecue. Today I've picked out some St. Louis style barbecued ribs. So we're going to be doing some pork ribs, and the nice thing about these ribs is it's something that's quick, it's easy. If your family's looking to eat in about 3-4 hours, you can still smoke these and get a great flavor on these ribs. And the nice thing is most times, as you can see here, you can go to the butcher and you can get some St. Louis style ribs that are already pre-cut. Now, that saves you a ton of time rather than having to cut the ends off the ribs and things. But there's still a lot of preparation that needs to be done. So what I'm doing is I'm showing you the front side of one rack of ribs, and that meat looks great. I'm going to take some of this fat off the end and clean up a little bit of the fat. But on the back side, you need to get rid of that membrane. So what you want to do is you just want to take a butter knife like this, and you want to get down here next to the bone and just find a spot where you can get some of the membrane up with the butter knife. And then what you want to do is just take some paper towels, and that's usually the easiest thing. It's the thing I do. And then the membrane should just lift right off. And the nice thing about that is when you tear this off, it allows for the seasoning to be able to just attach to the ribs a lot nicer. Plus it just tastes a lot better. You don't have to be chewing through this tough membrane. So just remove this membrane from the back of the ribs like that. And then the remainder of what you're going to be doing is you're going to be just cutting the excess fat and cleaning up the ribs. So in just a minute I'll have this cleaned up and I'll show you what we're going to do for the seasoning. We're actually going to turn them over and we're going to do the bone side first. But what I like to use is some mustard. And so you can use just a regular yellow mustard. You can use a lot of different things to be a binder. For me, I like this spicy brown mustard. It not only gives it, a binder to stick to, but it gives it a little bit of flavor. But you don't want to get a ton of it on there because we're going to get our flavor from the rub that we're going to put on. So I like to just put pretty much just one line on each side. And then you just want to just, smooth that in. Just like that. And as you can see, it's just a little bit of a yellow coating. It's not going to give a ton of flavor, but it's going to give something for the rub to stick to. And then we'll do it on the other rack of ribs. If you're getting your smoker ready, you want to set it to 250 degrees. And I like to put the meat in there while it's hot. So I've got my Camp Chef warming up right now outside. So I picked up this from Amazon. This is a sweet honey pecan. And again, I like to try and drop that rub from a high spot because then it lets it evenly kind of get onto the meat. And you can see me going up and down the meat here. I'm not putting it on heavy. There will be some other flavoring that we do during the barbecue process. And of course it's going to pick up flavoring from the smoke as well. So we've got just a nice covering on the ribs. Alright, so let's take these outside. We've got the Camp Chef set to 250 degrees, and I've got the ribs ready to go. One thing I didn't say is you'd like to leave the seasoning and let them sit for about 15 to 20 minutes before you put them on the grill. But the grill's nice and hot and ready to go, so we're going to go ahead and put our racks of ribs right on there. And I like to get them back here by the smoke where it's rolling up from the back. You kind of already hear that sizzle from that temperature, and then we want to get these in here as quickly as possible because we want to hold that temperature as well as we can. I'll check back with you in about a half an hour. Alright guys, so I wanted to film this before it gets too dark. It's getting kind of cold and dark outside here, but I have actually a bottle of apple cider vinegar. It's half that, half water, so 50-50, and you can just pick up a spray bottle at like the Dollar Tree or just anywhere. But we've pre-mixed this just to spray onto the barbecued ribs. So what you want to do is, now that they're starting to dry out a little bit, you want to just come out here and just put a little bit of spray on them and get them a little bit wetter again. As you can see, and I can smell it, it adds a little bit of moisture to the ribs and keeps them from drying out. So we've been at this for about an hour. We're going to go another probably about an hour, and then we'll come back out and we will wrap these in foil. You're probably wondering who this beautiful young lady is right here. This is my assistant. This is my daughter, Katie.
Hi.
And Katie has been preparing these ribs and helping in the background all day. And she asked if she could be on this video, and I said, of course she can. So when we do ribs, when we do anything that's smoked meat, it's a family affair. So Katie's going to help me in this process as we're finishing the preparation. So if you look down here, what we've prepared is we've prepared the ribs with our foil. And the foil has a layer of butter on it and then a 1/4 cup of brown sugar. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to take a rack of the ribs and we're going to flip them so that they're face down right on top of that butter and that 1/4 cup of brown sugar. Can you use the spoon and spread that right down the butter for me? I'm going to move it. There you go. Keep going. Get it all out of there. So you want to spread that brown sugar and let that brown sugar get in with the butter. And again, we'll go face down. Those are starting to look really good. But the apple cider vinegar, that's just going to give a little tanginess, and it's going to help tenderize the meat and bring a little bit more flavor to it. So we're just going to go just a light drizzle of it. We're just going to go right down the back of the rib there. And what you'll see in about an hour when we finish the ribs, you're going to see a little bit of a pullback from the bone. And that vinegar is just going to help tenderize and get all the best flavors out of the meat. So now we're going to wrap and foil each of the racks of ribs. And you're just going to pull that together nice and tight. I can still feel the heat coming off these. I still have the smoker going out there at 250 degrees. And you just want to wrap it nice and tight. And it's going to kind of steam the ribs in there. So a lot of times when people use a dry rub, what they find is, the meat will get too dried out. And what this is going to do is give that nice dry rub to it. But the barbecued ribs are going to get tenderized with the heat at 250 degrees inside this foil. And again, you just want to leave them meat side down, bone side up. And now guess what, Katie?
What?
We have 2 racks of ribs, but there's 6 of us in the family. So who's going to get which? How about you get 1 rack and we'll cut off about 2 inches for the other kids, and I get the other rack and we'll cut off about 2 inches. That sounds pretty fair, doesn't it? Alright, well, as you can tell, we have a lot of fun. She's got 3 older brothers who I'm sure will be fighting us for these ribs, but we're going to go out, put them back on the Camp Chef, and we'll look back at them in about an hour. Alright guys, we've just brought the ribs back in from the smoker. Katie, what do you think? Should we take a look and see if they're done?
Oh, big time. It looks delicious.
Alright, well, we haven't even seen them yet, guys, and there's a lot of steam coming off of these still. So we're just going to pull the foil back, and oh my gosh, look at that. So see how the membrane has already broke down so much that the ribs are showing there, you guys? That's why you took that membrane off in the beginning. But look at how much liquid, how much moisture is still on these. And this is still face down, so you're not seeing the best of the ribs yet. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to close this one back up again. You want to let these ribs now rest for about 15 minutes or so. And you're going to then see the final product, and I'll cut the ribs. Alright guys, well, the ribs are now ready to be cut. Here's the final look at them before I start to cut them. What you really like about this is the color of the ribs turned out really well. You get that mahogany red color. Plus you can see the pullback on the row here in front, and especially on this back row of ribs you can just see the pull back on the ribs themselves. You can even see this one bone's just falling out of the rib on each end here. So I'm going to show you how to cut the ribs the way I do it anyway. I like to flip them over so you can see the rib side, and that way you Thought I'd just get a little sneak of the flavor. That way you make a nice, good cut through the ribs. I like to have a nice long knife. That way, and then you can cut evenly right through the middle. It's nice and thick. Should be able to make just one long blade cut like that, and the rib should be right there in the middle. And you can tell the tenderness on these, the knife's just cutting right through it. I'll turn them towards you in just a minute so you can see the smoke ring on them. And we'll just continue down the line here. As the rib cage changes direction, we'll change the blade of the knife. So what you want to look at there is, see the smoke ring, you can see the pink, and then you can see the flavor around the edge there. And I'll just set that up like that so you can see a few of those. But ultimately, the taste test is what determines how good they are. So here he goes. Nice and tender, plenty of moisture. You can see when I squeeze it how much moisture is still coming out of the rib there. See how that good bark on the outside, color looks great. If you like this recipe and you like what you've seen here, please like the video just below and then go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And next I'm going to be doing some chicken lollipops. So stay tuned for my next video, which will be chicken lollipops. It's the leg wrapped with bacon. What's not good with bacon?